Oh, we were just talking about how much we enjoy this song.
Never gets old.
It really doesn't. Welcome to the War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate.com, the first and only dating site exclusively for fans of pro wrestling. With our roster of over 70,000 superstars and divas, you too can find your tag team match at TagMeADate.com. And of course, we're playing Mick Foley's theme because he made an appearance on Raw, and continuing the streak of old timers or legends coming in and showing these young whippersnappers how it's done in terms of cutting a promo and showing emotion behind it. Shawn did it, Taker did it, Mick did it, Triple H did it. There's a reason that even though these guys aren't still necessarily in ring shape, even though I know a lot of them are wrestling and Mick's getting involved as a referee, they aren't the most physical anymore, but they still have the ability to cut a better promo than anybody. That Mick Foley promo I'd put up against any Mick Foley promo that he's cut. It was such a good, intense, honest promo.
Mick Foley is always a home run when it comes to his promos. They're always real. They're always, legit. There's real emotion behind it, which makes it real. And the thing is, too, going on all these legends showing you how it's done, Foley, it's just great that every year now, Foley cuts his promo at Hell in the Cell. Last year it was to talk to Sasha and Charlotte to really make sure they knew what they were getting into. And, and he just, every year now it seems, Hell in the Cell, we're going to get a Foley promo that's going to hit a grand slam.
Especially this year. Because this year is the 20th anniversary, so they're going to make a big deal about that. Which they should, because that's the moment. That's the moment for a lot of people where they're like, this is the Attitude Era. This is, wrestling is for me. Anybody
careers?
It did. Anybody who talks about Undertaker or Mick Foley has to acknowledge it. If you're a fan of the Undertaker, or if you're a fan of the Attitude Era, rather, you have to acknowledge it. If you're one of those people who's like, oh, this wrestling shit's fake, you have to look at that and go, well, there's fake and then there's fake.
There's
so
fake and then there's
yeah, seriously, there's fake and then there's Mick Foley telling Undertaker, no, just throw me off the top of this cage. It'll be just do it. It's fine. I
choke slam through the cage.
That's the thing that people might gloss over, is not only did he take the very large bump off the cage
to start the match.
Right. That was
that was the first spot. I mean, it was just everything about that match was so real and so amazing because you really thought the match was over. Like we all sat there and we were well, right. And then you can actually, if you go back, you can see Foley pop his shoulder back in and then climb back up. I mean, it was just so amazing. Foley was never the best wrestler. Foley was just a great character, and he was nuts, and he would do crazy shit, which is what made him, Cactus Jack. And, he's fucking awesome. And you know what? Not for nothing. He's the nicest guy in the world. I mean, I've had the honor of working a few shows with him. I've had conversations with him. He was way over on the whole Tag Me a Date deal. Obviously Noel helped us out and did a little, sponsorship for us, early on. So, it's Mick always has a special place for me because he's just, just an all around nice guy. And when you watch him at that Hell in the Cell match, you can't believe it's the same person, because it's, to somebody, I remember when I was in college and there were those people that were like, oh, you watch wrestling? How could you watch this shit? And my go-to was that match. I'd be like, you know what, guys? Whoever's not into wrestling, I get it. Just do me a favor. Just watch this one match, and I'll never say anything again. And 95% of them became fans of wrestling after that match.
You know which one I also like for that? It's also a Mick Foley match. Mick Foley, Randy Orton for the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, where Randy takes his first ever thumbtack bump. and you just see a look on his face like, welcome to the business, kid.
Yeah. But you know what? You could even say that about Mick Foley, The Rock. You know, when they had to fucking escort his wife and kids away from ringside because The Rock hit him like 12 times in the head with a chair.
It was something like
fucking crazy.
Look at that whole series of matches Foley and Rock had, like the empty arena match and the.
I was never a fan of empty arena matches, to be honest with you. They weren't the first to do it.
That one was funny though, because like
it was funny, but I don't know.
With the wings, it's mild.
I get it. I don't know. I was just never really a fan of the whole empty arena match. I think, for me, the fans have a lot to do with a match being good or not. I mean, with the actual ring work aside, the fans, if they're into a match and they're rowdy and they're going crazy and they're doing a shit ton of chants, the wrestlers themselves, and they'll be the first to tell you this, they perform better. They pull out all the stops because it makes them want to keep going because the crowd's into it. If you're a dull, crowd, they just want to take it home as quickly as possible and get out of there.
Yeah, and that one was very produced. Like it definitely happened in more than one take. It wasn't just like Jerry Lawler, Terry Funk, my eye, Jerry Lawler, my eye.
I don't think any other two competitors would have been able to bring that match to the way it was.
It was so goofy.
Those two.
Like The Rock sold when they pinned him with the pallet jack.
Yeah,
that was kind of funny.
They had that picture. Like all of a sudden they turn the camera to a first-person perspective onto The Rock, and he's down on the ground, and they have the camera zoom in on him to simulate the pallet jack coming down. I'm just like, oh, this is so 90s produced schlocky TV. It was great.
I also like that one spot when they're in the offices before they tumble down, and he's wrapping them up in the phone cord. He's like, hello? No, Mankind can't come to the phone right now. He's a little tied up.
They go through catering and throw the food around. The whole thing was great. It was
also
that was a wonderful
sense
segment.
it was middle of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they filmed it like it was halftime heat, so that was at halftime of the Super Bowl. It wasn't live. It was pre-taped before Raw the week before, I think it was. Something like that. But
another very underrated match before we get into everything is Foley versus Shawn Michaels, Mind Games.
Oh, Mind Game.
That was a very good match.
Oh, man.
I was going to say, well, it's not underrated, but the two matches with Triple H.
The Hell in a Cell with Triple H is particularly.
And the hardcore match at the Rumble.
Yep. Oh, my God. And to go way back,
Vader. He just brought these things to life. And last night, he just really brought us those memories, and he got us into the current era.
And it was so refreshing to see somebody cut that kind of promo. It was just really nice to see somebody who didn't come out there and hashtag this.
Hashtag that.
Social media
I also like that Elias got to work with Foley like that.
And I mean, Elias's promos are heavily produced and heavily written, and it follows a script, which isn't bad because he follows a script very well. But you can just tell a modern person, one of the modern wrestlers who's having their every movement critiqued, and the pressure of trying to say the word. Somebody wrote these words and they're getting paid to write the words, but sometimes they don't feel like they're true to your character, and you still have to deliver the lines, and it's like a frustrating thing. There was none of that with Mick. They just said, Mick, you got 5 minutes, hit this, this, and this, and go out there. And,
that's what I was going to say. A lot of the guys, like, even Triple H, whether it's Triple H or Mick Foley or even The Rock, guys like that, Bray Wyatt at this point, these guys are just giving bullets. They're told, you want to hit this, 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 and this, do you? Other guys, they have to be scripted. Roman Reigns, for the most part, is probably scripted. I think his promos have been getting a little bit better, and I think that's because they're giving him a little more flexibility, but I use that very loosely because, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to shift gears real quick, and before we get into Raw and everything, I and I'm very excited, and I really want to give Renee Young her just due, but there's always that one asshole, right? There's always that somebody.
Ooh, who is it this day?
You know, I just, if you recall, which was always one of my favorites, who very rapidly I'm becoming less and less a fan. You know, Sabu is really becoming homicidal because, I mean, the shit that's coming out of his mouth. I mean, everything from what he said about Renee Young to now he hasn't done enough heroin because he's still alive. What the fuck? I mean, I just, how do you say the things that he said? And I won't even repeat them. If somebody else wants to, you can. But how do you even say that kind of shit about Renee Young? I mean, I really am so excited that
I don't even think he knows her.
WWE finally, you know, gave a woman to be a voice of Monday Night Raw, and no better person out there than Renee Young. And I've been saying that for a while. And we've all been saying that.
That's the important thing. I didn't just want a woman on commentary.
It had to be the right woman.
So they could say, hey, look at us. We have a woman on commentary on Raw. It only took us 25 years. You know, like it could, like if it was Steph, if it was Nikki or Brie, if it was Nikki Bella, just fucking put a railroad spike in my ear and hit it with a sledgehammer. That's how I feel about that. But Renee Young is the right person for the job. And I say right person for the job because I want to compare her to not another female, and when it's not a battle of the sexes things, this is broadcasters.
Well, you know what, you're right. It is
between Jonathan Coachman and Renee Young, and I didn't think there would ever be a point where I'd say this because Coach was always pretty solid. Yeah. Coach has lost a step. Yeah. Renee Young smokes him right now, just on a base level of understanding the stories and being invested in it. It's almost like Coach went over to sports.
Vince, she's the best one on the table.
She is. But it's almost like Coach went to legitimate sports at ESPN and then came back. He's like, oh, I got to commentate on this fake shit now. And it's just
I don't know. I mean, Coach, I've always been a fan of Coach, and I agree. And listen, if I have to choose, right, between having Coach stay or have Renee, that's an easy.
Yeah.
There's no delay. Like, and you know, I want to go back to what you just said. You know, you were talking about the whole broadcasting, and it's just broadcasters, and you're right. But this is history breaking for professional wrestling and WWE, because now Renee Young will go down in history as the first woman to be the voice of Monday Night Raw. And don't get me wrong, I truly believe that when Cole exits, Renee is the lead.
Oh yeah, I think 100%.
So. Yeah. It's not going to go to Corey Graves, even though I think Corey Graves does a great job too.
He's color commentary. Renee's going to be play-by-play.
100%. And I couldn't be happier for her. I just, you know, it was the perfect choice.
Yeah, they made the right choice. Kathy Kelly probably would have been okay. But what I'm saying is they didn't just go and pick like Lita or Medusa and just stick them out there and like, what's the first one? They found somebody who was qualified.
A woman for just a woman. They chose the right woman, in my opinion.
Well, you know what?
Who's going to win the Royal Rumble? I don't know.
But you know what? And I think the other thing, too, is, you know, somebody like Lita, for example, she's now at a point in her career where you want kind of that surprise element, that shock when you hear the music and she comes back for an appearance or, you know, comes back for a Rumble spot or, you know, whatever. But you don't want Lita every day because you want to get excited when she does show up. You know, Renee Young is there every week, and she's busted her ass, and she's done everything right. She's done all the specials, and she's done all the tables and all the pay-per-views, and she's proved herself. Yeah. And she was 100% the right choice. And congratulations to Renee Young. I think that's
definitely.
And I bet ESPN is right now like, damn it, she's never coming to us now.
They already
there's no shot at that. They
already tried.
But you know what? That just showed you that Renee Young,
she has
even though it's a job, she has a love for the business. She was a fan. And you can tell. This is what she's always wanted to do,
right,
and that's why she
wasn't to go away. Because that's a lot of people's goal. Well, I'm going to be a wrestler, and then I'm going to be an actor, or I'm going to be on a reality show, or whatever the fuck it is. Like, no, she wanted to be in wrestling, which is really, it's great to see that's someone's goal.
And, you know, and not for nothing, but I hope that she doesn't get too micromanaged like a lot of the commentators do from
and then
the headset. You know what I mean?
She will. At least at first. Yeah. Although she did say, I think there was a report after the first Raw where she said that Vince really only had to talk in her ear twice, and it was like small things, like just like slow down a little bit kind of thing, which because she was excited, you know. But other than that, there was
no constant yelling. You know.
Did you hear that Vince got in Jerry Lawler's ear the last time he was commentating on 25th anniversary?
No.
Jerry said something about like, JR, I'm so excited, I might even say the word puppies today. And then Vince is like, yeah, pal, can't do that.
Really?
He's like, immediately after he said it, Vince is like, put the kibosh on puppies. How far we've come from 1999.
Boy, do I miss the Attitude Era.
Oh, I know. Jerry did a whole segment on his podcast about how times are different. You know, it's the typical times are a changing thing that we're all saying, but to hear him say it is like, they won't use me anymore because I'm an old man and I say things that aren't politically correct and this and that. I'm like, we've officially got old man Jerry Lawler yelling at clouds, but he's not wrong. It's just he's at that point where they'll think twice about using him because he might say puppies or something that's off script or whatever. But he's great. I would want him to commentate a match if I was wrestling, but I understand the choice for why they won't use him now.
100%.
But Renee was definitely the right choice.
She really was.
Out of everybody they could have had,
she did a great job yet again. You know, it's like she's patient. She knows when to jump in. She knows when to back off. Like you know what I mean? Like she truly just did everything right.
She knows when to hold them. She knows when to fold them.
And honestly, the WWF was around before ESPN. And judging by the way ratings are going for ESPN, the WWE might be there after ESPN as well. So I think Renee made the right choice sticking where she is because this 24-hour sports thing has kind of reached its critical mass. And you see they get rid of like Jamel Hill. They get rid of they've done a lot of cuts, not just on-screen talent, but here in Connecticut, in Bristol, where ESPN is housed, they cut like 250 people off staff. So they're not making a ton of money. And they also have an LA studio now as well. But that's even more expensive. Imagine the price, real estate prices out in LA versus Bristol, not even Hartford, Bristol, Connecticut, little podunk, middle of nowhere, 2-horse town, and they run there, and it's the talk of Connecticut really whenever they cut jobs because they're just not the 24-hour sports networks aren't as stable now as they thought they were or as they once were. So it's interesting to see that. As live sports aren't the issue. It's the news shows and all that. As that becomes more and more of an issue of what they're going to replace that program with, wrestling becomes more of a positive for the network. And that's like what happened with Fox. That's why Fox got it, because when they didn't have a live sport, their ratings dipped. Live sports are the only things that are keeping ratings alive in the U.S. right now. Because everything else is streamed later or DVR'd or whatever the fuck, or who you just sometimes it's a program that's not even on a television network. It's on Hulu, it's on Netflix. So the only things that are garnering ratings and garnering ad money are live sports, and wrestling, which has been around just as long as all the other ones, is suddenly back in the spotlight instead of being made fun of. So we're living in interesting times where ESPN is doing worse than the WWE. What happened? Yeah, it is weird to think that WWE is potentially going to last longer than the ESPN network. But Raw.
Considering how ESPN's been run, it's not.
Yeah, ESPN has never really been. I mean, they hit their stride kind of with Chris Berman and all those. And once, a couple of their guys, the broadcasters retired, a couple of them died. Dan Patrick's not on anymore. It's like they lost a lot of their celebrities from ESPN.
I rented a car to Chris Berman years ago.
Nice. He's cool.
Yeah, and he did it for me too. And when he returned the car, I was like,
back.
I was like, "Can you do it for me one time?" He's like, "What do you want me to go back?" I was like, "You're the fucking man."
That's great.
Oh
my God. That's fantastic. So Raw happened last night. I'll admit I was watching the Yankee game. I didn't watch much of Raw. I don't feel like I really missed anything.
Raw was decent, but I do want to talk about Ronda Rousey.
Before we talk about this, I want to in the same vein of talking about this. I turned that match off, not realizing that people were going to end up talking about it because I guess Ronda didn't do so well. But I couldn't tell you how little of a shit I gave about a women's tag team match in the middle of Raw like that. I don't care. Like, it was just, there was no, I know Ronda is supposed to be the draw, but they put her with these people who was like, okay, if we're thinking about this logically, she steamrolls these girls in fucking 30 seconds because Alexa Bliss is a foot shorter than her and is not an Olympic judo master. So why is this happening? I don't know. The whole thing just, I don't know. It's not catching me the way I think they want people to be caught up in it, because it's almost like they're bringing Ronda down, having her interact with like fucking Alicia Fox. Like, what do we do?
I mean, listen, she was in a tag match against Mickie James and Alexa Bliss. So, I mean, that to me wasn't the issue. And I really, I fucking hate to say it because I'm a big Rousey fan and I'm very excited that she's there. And this really just goes back to what I've always been saying, though, is that I just don't think that she's ready to be champion. And her performance last night proved it. It was, and it's not that she was terrible, but you could definitely see she's just very green. Like, there were spots in the match that she clearly was just standing there and waiting for Mickie to do something before she went in. You know, like, it was just very sloppy and very slow and just like, it was weird. She just didn't come across well at all. And it sucks. I don't want to say that because I do. I love Ronda, but she obviously has the ability to wrestle a good match because we've seen her wrestle good matches. But I know what you say. It's a consistency thing of she hasn't been doing it as long. So it's not like she's wrestled 10 matches a week for the last 10 years of her life to kind of get this down to where she can have just like go out there and go, hey, have a 5-minute TV match. Okay, boss, I'll go out there in 5 minutes. That's not in her skill set yet. And I agree with that. She shouldn't have been champion yet. I knew they were going to hotshot it to her because she was, after that WrestleMania match, she was the only thing people could talk about. So you knew that they were going to hotshot it to her. But yeah, I think we should have gone back to what Ronda originally said about not wanting special treatment and not getting a title shot until I'm ready and all that. And that was her. And I believe that was her. But then wheels turned and negotiations were had or whatever else. And the higher ups decided that they were going to put the title on her. Well, dude, their intentions were to put the title on her from the very beginning. Yeah, but I think it could have been, we would have done it at like Survivor Series or Royal Rumble and built up to WrestleMania. Instead, we do it very early, in my opinion. I think she should have even said, I'm not going to challenge for a title. I'm not going to be involved in the number one contendership until I believe I'm ready. And then there's this, will she, won't she? When does she think she's going to be ready to, try and make that jump? And then she could have those feuds with like Mickie James and with other like top, like Natty, somebody who's towards the top but not the champion. She has a couple of those feuds to warm her up and get her ready for the title. Now she has to learn while being champion.
And this is almost like a situation like The Rock, where The Rock didn't wrestle on the indies either. He had a couple warm-up matches and a tryout or whatever, and they threw him to the wolves. And we got Rocky Johnson, or not Rocky, Rocky Maivia.
Rocky Maivia.
With the fucking tassels and all that shit. And then they ate him alive. Even though he was very, very good, they ate him alive because they could taste that he wasn't ready, and they could sense that he wasn't ready. So I don't want Ronda to get Rocky Maivia'd. I feel like that's not. I don't want it to go that way. Hopefully it doesn't. As long as this is like kind of a one-time stinkeroo. Now everybody has a bad match. I mean, you can't bat 1,000, but
Vince, you gotta watch it. Watch the match. It's not very long.
Is it okay?
I mean, it's 10 minutes, but watch the match.
Because I turned it on, and I was fully intending to finish watching it, but the Yankees had the bases loaded. And then when I turned back, I think maybe they went to commercial break, or I caught like the second half. There was like a little commercial break in the middle. Yeah, I'll go back and get my thoughts on it. I just don't. I agree with you, Steve. I don't like the idea of a champion in training who's learning as they go. As admirable as it is, and as good of a job as she's done so far, last night aside, it's an uphill battle. Why would you want to do that to one of your top talents and do that to a big star like Ronda? Why wouldn't you want to put her in a position to succeed rather than, kind of fumble around? Because if you fumble around like that in NXT or a house show somewhere or in training on an off day, that's fine. You work that out then. You can't work it out on Monday nights.
Right.
That's the one thing. You really can't work it out on Monday nights. So hopefully they figure out a solution to this thing. And I'm not opposed to some kind of screw job finish where she loses, which really realistically, unless she's facing like Shayna, I'm okay with any.
Yeah, that's the only way to get out of that.
I feel like Alexa can't beat her clean. She's only going to be able to beat her by cheating, and watch her go and pin her clean like Carmella pinned Asuka and Charlotte. But anyway, Alexa, I feel like really, if she's going to go over, has to have something dirty happen. Natty turns on Ronda or whatever the fuck else they do to get the belt back on Alexa and then kind of redo the chase. I don't know. At this point, I feel like they're just going to go full steam ahead, and the plan of Charlotte Ronda at WrestleMania, I just feel like they have that tacked up on the board, and they're going to barrel through and try and get that done. That's my sixth sense on that one, which hopefully be good, but who knows? What else happened on Raw? Because like I said, I worked a little bit, and by the time I got home, it was probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I didn't really catch a whole lot of the show. So what happened?
Go ahead, Ryan. Kick it off.
Triple H promo I wanted to bring up.
Triple H promo was phenomenal as always.
Oh, yeah.
As always.
Can't always go wrong with Triple H.
And again, he's another guy, it's weird to consider him like a legend or a retired wrestler because, I mean, that means we're all getting old. but it's just like he makes his.
He could go full time
if he wanted to. He could, I'm sure. But it's almost like the Undertaker, where it's a special occasion now. Triple H shows up. You're like, oh, we're gonna get one of those Triple H promos. Imagine saying that in like 2001.
Yeah.
Triple H is opening the show with a promo. No one was that excited about Triple H opening any show. 15 years ago, for real. But now he comes out and it's not every week, which is I think why it's got a better reception. But also it feels more special. It's been a while since Triple H months since Triple H cut a promo on Raw. So that really does. They're doing everything they can to build up this Australia show, much like they did with Saudi Arabia, which I don't blame them for. But it's just funny that they're putting this effort into a show that is happening after the pay-per-view, while at the same time promoting the pay-per-view. So it's listen, I'm glad that the Triple H promos are not a bad thing, but it's just weird, like they're promoting two things at once. And Mick is in there for Hell in a Cell, but then you've got Shawn, Taker, and Triple H in there, all promoting the Australian show.
They're so close together that they kind of have to.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Shawn Michaels. I read a headline that said Shawn Michaels may wrestle 5 matches in a comeback. 5.
Yeah, I heard that too. But I think the final match will be against The Undertaker at Mania. Because I think the whole idea now is that Michaels is the special referee, and then Michaels is going to cost Undertaker the match, which is going to set up their Mania match. And that'll be the final match.
Yeah. And Triple H, when he cut his promo, said something to the effect of the era is back, like that end of an era match is now being undone because it's no longer the end of an era. Those 3 guys are back in their exact same capacities for this match. 2 guys wrestling each other, 1 guy's a special guest. It's literally the same configuration as the end of an era match. Wonder if we'll get any Metallica music.
Kind of like when Cena and Rock was once in a lifetime, and then they came
twice
back to
in
that.
a lifetime. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to the match. I'm looking forward to see what the Undertaker can do with his new hip and some time off. It's so weird saying that about the Undertaker.
Yeah, his new hip.
Oh, his new hip. His new hip and
my hip.
He only had like barely a match against John Cena at WrestleMania. So we shall see what they can do.
That wasn't even a squash match.
It was
That was a fart.
It was finisher, just finisher spam. It was finisher after finisher.
It was kind of like a run out. Just run out there.
Yeah, it was like interference or something. Yeah, that was almost like what you put on after, like when Raw goes off the air and then they have like a little segment and send everybody home happy.
Match.
Yeah, it was like that. Only they did it in the middle of the show, right after the women's WWE Smackdown Women's Championship match, which interfered in Charlotte's celebration as John Cena ran up the ramp to steal all the glory from Charlotte. But anyway, they should have put that shit on last. If they knew what they know now about Roman and Brock getting booed, they would have put that Undertaker shit on last and sent everybody home happy.
Didn't they know about?
Oh, I don't know, because they've been beating their heads against the wall for the last 4 years, and it finally knocked their sense of hearing out of alignment. I really don't know. But they should have figured. Anyway, Raw, Triple H cuts a good promo. We've got Ronda had a bad match. Braun, what is this thing about Braun holding court again and poor Kevin Owens, who has
it just doesn't make
battered
sense
wife syndrome?
It doesn't make
Stockholm syndrome. All of a sudden, he's siding with his captors or whatever.
Just because he's a heel, that's pretty much.
It makes absolutely no sense at all. None. The Braun even being heel makes no sense. The whole thing is stupid.
When do we get that
going to get booed at the pay-per-view, so it's all going to be for nothing.
When are we going to get that moment where the Shield pins everybody that interfered on them? Like
next
Mike
week.
Kanellis and Gulak and all. They're going to get them next week. They're just going to run through all the poor souls. The AOP.
Yep.
That's another one that doesn't make sense. The AOP want to be tag team champions, but they're siding with the tag team champions.
Yeah.
And Drake Maverick of all people.
That's
apparently
so stupid.
So Paul Ellering is too old for some reason. What the fuck?
Apparently Vince thinks Paul Ellering looks too old to be on TV.
Bullshit.
So instead, you choose a midget.
Well, Cat's daughter thought it was Hornswoggle.
Yes.
You grab someone who's cosplaying as AOP.
Yeah, they put him in this teeny little costume. It's really like, at least let him wear his suits that he wears. Why embarrass him further by making him wear?
Yeah, I think he'd come across better in the suits.
Yeah. He would come across better if he was Paul Ellering.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. There's no replicating that one.
There was something about Paul Ellering that brought out the best in AOP.
Well, again, it's the non-phony promos. I mean, he's from the 70s and the 80s. He cut a phony wrestling promo. But what I'm saying is there's a way that the guys in the 70s and the 80s cut a phony wrestling promo that made you believe, that drew you in. It wasn't about TV ratings. It was about live gates. You had to talk the people literally into the building for the next show. Yeah. He had that ability. I saw a picture of him with like a full head of hair. Shocked the hell out of me. And then I see, but even back then he was cutting the same kind of promos. He has like he almost sounds like a Disney villain sitting on a throne, and it like echoes because he talks like this and everything kind of is one big William Shatner sentence until he gets to the end. Like it was like that, but like there was just something about it where it was undeniable. You watched him, you're like, what is this guy talking about? And
he was great.
I don't like the he's too old for TV thing, because that's why Vince isn't on TV. Vince thinks he himself is too old to be on TV.
It's true.
So how are you gonna you can't really succeed in that winning that argument, because he's like, listen, pal, I'm not on TV either. So if I'm not on TV,
apparently
you're not bald ass isn't on
apparently
TV.
He dreads being on TV now. He only does it when he absolutely has to.
Yeah.
Now, which sucks because the crowd still pops the hardest when his music hits.
Right. And I think he just, like I said, I think he thinks he looks too old. He doesn't want to come off as being frail or aging or anything. And so what? Vince, you can't do steroids in your 80s, buddy. We get it. Like sometimes you gotta put that shit down.
And not for nothing, he still looks great.
He does. He doesn't even look bad. That's the thing.
Jesus, remember that Muscle and Fitness magazine?
He did it one time, and then he did it a couple years later, and he looked visually like his hair. He had changed his hair. He had his hair shaved, so he went from that big poofy hair to like the flat hair that he had in his later years. But he did two different magazine covers. He was fucking more ripped like 5 years later in the second one than he was in the first one, and he was like 65 when he did it. It was crazy. He's shredded. I'm gonna have to find that picture now.
I remember it was nuts.
I know, and oh my god! But yeah, so it's unfortunate that he has that perception of himself, which then bleeds over into other talent. Because then imagine, like, at what point do like the women's wrestlers become too old? Like, is there a point where he's gonna say, "Lita, your titties are too sagging. We can't have you on TV anymore"? Like, when is that tipping point gonna come?
Oh, jeez.
Mickey James, you got a saddle ass there, pal.
How long did he have Mae Young on there?
I know. Yeah, those two old broads on there until pretty much literally they died.
Well, listen, Mae Young at 90 was still letting fucking Bubba Ray Dudley put her through a table.
Oh my god, she was fucking crazy. Yeah, I found that. Oh my god, that Muscle and Fitness magazine. Vince is a goddamn monster. I don't know how. I'm gonna screen share this. I wish I was in half as good a shape. I'm half his age or more, and he's fucking ripped. That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Like, that's how do you get like that at 60 something years old? 69. He was 69 when this picture was taken. Holy shit. And I know there's probably Photoshop and retouching, but goddamn. Look, here's the old one. Look at that. He was in really good shape there, 60. So 9 years beforehand, he was in really good shape there. But then all of a sudden he's ripped.
He kicked it up a notch.
Yeah. He definitely kicked it up a notch. Holy shit. The man's a legend. Like, why would this guy not want to be on TV anymore? This guy, he's the fucking man. And I know
he doesn't see himself looking like that anymore.
No, I know. And I know he created a lot of the issues that we're in right now, like with the Roman Reigns thing and all that. But he's still Vince McMahon, and you still want that character. The Mr. McMahon character is one of the best that has ever been.
Oh, 100%.
Out of managers and authority figures and all that, he was he knew how to get heat. I mean, he wanted to be a wrestler, and his dad never wanted him to be a wrestler. And, could you imagine if he was full time, and he wanted to like dye his hair and be like a Ric Flair or a $1 Million Man kind of gimmick?
I mean, well, the $1 Million Man was basically what Vince.
It was basically him.
Yeah. Him.
But so could you imagine a young, like a 20, instead of wearing that stupid yellow jacket, Vince McMahon bleaches his hair blonde and starts wrestling as the $1 Million Man, you know, whatever name he wants to pick.
$1 Million McMahon.
$1 Million McMahon. I like that.
I kicked around my head like, I like that, actually.
Jesse Ventura. He's $1 Million McMahon, man.
No, I got it even better. He's the $1 Million Mac Man.
Mr. McMahon.
Yes.
Those guys are. Oh, I miss those guys too. There's a video of Pat Patterson singing "My Way" in some karaoke bar that was just put out like last week. So there's that too.
He did that at Legends House too.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it on Legends House, but now it's like he's still. People are like inviting him to like he does like a one-man show. Yeah, he does like a one-man show and finishes.
That's Phil Apter's go-to song, also. By the way,
I mean, it's if you're gonna use the song, that's the one to sing, man. Damn.
Yeah.
What else? What happened with this speech on Raw? We got because that's how we started on this whole tangent about yelling at clouds and the way things used to be, or whatever it was. Now, Braun is addressing all of the heels.
Yeah.
Even though some of the heels were guys that he has beaten up and thrown.
Well, he basically declared that they are all his what? His
backup.
Or was it like dogs of war or something?
Like his tribe, like his, you know.
So everybody's buddy now. Okay.
Apparently.
All super best
How
friends.
convenient. Well, that sounds like a freight train.
Everybody banding around Roman Reigns.
Well, that's kind of the issue again that we have is that all of these guys, all of them, and it's like 20 guys are being used to elevate Roman Reigns. Like, just it feels like a misuse of resources. Like
if
you have that many guys, go ahead.
Yeah. They set up Rollins and Ambrose versus Drew and Dolph for the tag titles at the pay-per-view, I think.
So maybe that mitigates any interference between Reigns and Strowman. And
if you go classic booking, Strowman should win. Should.
If we're doing that 50-50, whoever...
I think it depends on who wins in the tag title match, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like maybe the Shield picks up the win, but then Ziggler and Mac beat him up, put him through a table, something, so then they are out of commission for the main event. I don't know. I still think with that Money in the Bank briefcase being in the hands of Baron Corbin, the last we saw it, I feel like that's still going to come into play. Whether he gives it to Kevin Owens or whether he cashes it in himself or something like that. I just feel like
I don't understand that because
is he still the Money in the Bank champ guy? Like is that even still? I haven't even seen the briefcase.
He turned it in.
Yeah, Braun gave it to assistant to the regional manager Baron Corbin.
For
Baron
Schrute.
Right, Baron Schrute. My cousin Baron.
Let's call him the Fridays.
Yeah, he looks like a TGI Fridays bartender. But so Braun gave it to him.
Abercrombie and bitch.
After he announced that he was challenging Reigns for the Hell in a Cell. So we haven't seen it since he handed it to Baron Corbin. And he's not being called Mr. Monster in the Bank anymore or any of that stuff. Because technically he's already quote unquote cashed it in.
Yeah.
But his cash in is for this weekend.
Right. Which is why it's weird that all of a sudden this briefcase, unless they really just want to put Roman over and they don't even want the briefcase involved.
But that's why it's weird for a heel turn for Braun, because he was trying to go about it like the honorable way by saying, okay, I'm going to cash in ahead of time. I'm going to tell you ahead of time.
And then he turns heel.
At least if
he turns heel nonsensically.
Right. He could have just turned heel and beaten up Roman Reigns after the match.
And then he could have had the fucking title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like
The whole thing makes no goddamn sense.
Last week, the Shield stole a police car and drove back to the arena, but then they got the shit kicked out of themselves. And so why wouldn't you with 20 guys as backup and you just beat up 3 guys? Why wouldn't Baron Corbin come down with the briefcase, give it to Braun? Yeah. Braun gets a referee. We get a title change 2 weeks before the show. Holy shit, there's a title change 2 weeks before the pay-per-view. Oh my God. What a moment, Michael Cole says. It's boss time. I don't know, whatever the fuck hashtag they're going to use.
No, it's boss time. It's
Raw.
Raw.
Yeah, it could have been. Oh my. Could it be? It is. Anyway, Michael Cole bingo. But there are all these kind of things they could have done to make this interesting because the Money in the Bank has such specific rules and has been used in specific ways to get somebody a title shot and get them a quick title change. It's almost like they gave it to him and then they're like, well, we don't want you to have it. If you didn't want him to have it,
we don't want you to have the title.
Yeah, I honestly think someone else should have had the Money in the Bank briefcase because
this is what they're going to do.
He comes off as a guy that doesn't need the briefcase.
He flips over ambulances. He doesn't need anything. He doesn't need 2 guys backing him up. We saw that. He flipped over a goddamn cement truck.
And I'm pretty sure that's temporary too. I don't see that alliance lasting too long.
Yeah.
No.
Honestly, out of all those guys,
fuck up.
I'd rather have McIntyre be the Universal Champion out of everybody. As much as I want to see Braun Strowman finally, because Braun Strowman should have already won the title.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
So I want to see him win it, but I think McIntyre could have good matches with Braun. He could have good matches with Dolph. He could have good matches with anybody on that roster. He'd be a really good champion for a title that honestly doesn't have the best legacy.
Doesn't mean jack shit.
No, you've got a 1-day title reign given up due to injury. You've got Roman Reigns, who nobody likes, Brock Lesnar, who defended it 4 times, Goldberg, who defended it 3 times, twice, whatever it was, and then Kevin Owens, who the poor fucking guy. The only reason Kevin Owens won that title was to lose it to Goldberg. To set up Goldberg versus Brock.
I think that was more had to do with Balor being out.
But what was also confusing, though, was the way Owens won. Triple H basically handed him the belt, but they never had any continuity with that, other than maybe Stephanie siding with Kevin every once in a while.
Continuity? What's that?
Yeah.
It's not something we usually hear. Like that, and that's really the problem is you'd think you'd have somebody sitting back there taking notes or like a poster board or a dry erase board with like, remember a mind map when you were writing a book report in like 5th grade and you had an idea in the center and you circled it and all the things branched off and then things branched off from those. What happened? That's how you keep track of everything. That's how
They're doing it like one of those choose your own story books, and then you skip pages and
right, yeah, and hopefully it all makes sense at the end. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not very motivated to watch Raw right now. They
don't make it easy.
I think Hell in the Cell is going to be all right. I think it's going to be a decent pay-per-view. I think there's going to be some surprises. I think there may be some surprise heel turns, double turns. I think things are going to – I don't know. I just – what if – throwing this out there, is there any way possible that Braun is, like, fucking with everybody?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like, kind of like making everyone think one way, but – still, like, making everyone think he's a heel, but he's not. You know what I mean? Like, is there some way they can kind of, like, from the inside out kind of deal?
That would be brilliant if they pulled that off.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's why. Like, maybe we're supposed to be here. Like,
Braun is some kind of savant.
Like, what the fuck?
That would be the most complex story they've tried to tell in many years. And if they could pull it off, it would be great. At this point, I don't know if they have.
That seems to be the kind of character they're going for in NXT with Lars Sullivan, where he's this big monster, but he's actually very intelligent.
Right. Well, just because you're big and monstrous doesn't mean you're stupid.
Right, exactly.
That's like Brains Strowman.
Yeah.
I wish they kept that gimmick for more than one segment. He should have
Yeah, that was
wrestled as
pretty-
Brains Strowman in the fucking lab coat and everything.
Yep.
But yeah, the pay-per-view, I don't doubt the pay-per-view will be pretty good. It's Hell in a Cell, so I mean, if they're going to be using the cell the proper way and the match the proper way.
Listen, Jeff Hardy's going to do something stupid.
Oh, fuck me, yeah.
Oh, he's gonna do something insane.
You know what I mean? He's doing something off the top.
Jeff Hardy, since like 2000, at least since 2013, probably earlier, fills a garbage bag with ice and wraps it around his waist to ice his back after every match he wrestles. He's going to need they're going to have to bring in
a bathtub,
a big block of ice and carve a Jeff Hardy shaped indent so he can just lay on the top of the ice. It'll be like that ice block from a Thousand Ways to Die in the West, the one that crushed the guy. It would have to be that big. Yeah, he's gonna pull some crazy shit. I don't know if we'll ever see anyone go off the roof of the cell like Mick
Like a
did.
swanton off the cage.
See, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think they would have him do that. Shane did it last year with the airbag underneath the table.
Yeah.
Which you could see the airbag, which is fine. I'm not saying he has to go out there and kill himself, but I'm saying I don't think they would have him do a swanton unless he missed and he was the only one taking the bump, because they wouldn't want the person on the bottom receiving the force of, physics is real, folks. Was it 9.8 meters a second? And so that's the force. And I wouldn't want that from 20 feet up. I don't know how many meters that is, but you know what I mean? Like that would just be, you'd get crushed. But I'm sure those guys are going to do some crazy shit. Randy Orton, when he wants to be, is the best wrestler in the world. Like when he's wrestled Seth Rollins. When he did that,
sadistic in a cage,
all those RKO spots, the shooting star RKO with Evan Bourne, the curb stomp RKO, all of those, like if he does something like that, where imagine Jeff's hanging onto the cage like Spider-Man or something and tries to jump off and cross body block him or something, and he catches him in the air with an RKO, some shit like that. Like that's what I want to see from those guys. Go in there and tear it up. And if this is Jeff's last hurrah, it's his last hurrah. I feel like it almost is, and he wants to go out with a bang.
I hope it's not, because it already sounds like Matt's pretty much
that's
done.
What I'm saying. It feels like Matt's wrapping it up, and Jeff might be wrapping it up.
I feel like they didn't have enough time to you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just came back a year ago. It's like, I get it. I mean, they're hurting. I get it, but fucking hey.
But they could have, if they did the broken Matt Hardy brother Nero stuff, it would have meant, like, if they really went for it, like when Jeff came back and interfered in that match where he pushed Bray into the Lake of Reincarnation, if he came back as brother Nero after that, and he wouldn't have had to wrestle his high-flying style, because brother Nero's a different kind of entity,
right?
At least until he needed to in like a main event match. He didn't have to do, crazy bumps.
Although this feud with Randy Orton has been great.
Yes. Oh, this is
the feud has been phenomenal.
How uncomfortable it is to watch Randy Orton take his finger to Jeff's ear. I can't watch that anymore.
He fingers Jeff's ear hole, and it's really awkward. Yeah,
he fingers his ear hole.
But it's like I've got my ears pierced, but I don't have big gauges like that. But I know people that do.
Every time I see someone with those, that's all I can think about is what if something happens?
Yep. Yeah, it gets caught on something. Somebody comes by and pulls on it. Like I can't imagine how much that must hurt.
Then they reenacted it like in real. Oh God.
But
But dude, I almost feel like if it really did hurt, then Jeff wouldn't allow it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
I'm sure that doesn't. But what I'm saying is, imagine in real, if Randy Orton wanted to, his finger's already in there. He could fucking rip his earlobe. That would suck. That would just suck to have your earlobe ripped off.
Yeah, that would be something terrible.
Oh, it would be the worst.
That's what I worry about constantly with these people.
Did you ever see where, as a prank, someone will take a bike lock or a locker, like a little master lock, and put it in someone's ear gauge and then run away and not give them the key?
That's funny.
Nope, that's hilarious.
Yeah, there are like videos of people. They just run up to their friend and they.
How did that not happen on like Jackass or something?
I don't know, but I've seen it.
Did.
If you look it up on YouTube, like there are videos of like they'll prank their brother, their sister, their friend. They'll go up to them with a padlock and just pop it in their ear and run off.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean that's got to suck too because you've got an extra pound hanging off the side of your head. It's a wonderful prank because eventually you give them the key or you give them the combination, they can get it off their ear. But for that, like couple minutes where they're trying to think about what am I going to do, like what do you do with a lock in your ear if you don't have the key? You're sunk.
That's so funny.
So pay-per-view on Sunday, SmackDown tonight, 205 NXT, the whole deal.
Yep.
There's so much content. I'm looking forward to the pay-per-view in a sense that I'm not paying much attention to the TV stuff because as soon as Sunday happens, it's all going out the fucking window anyway. Like a lot of the stuff that they do on Monday or Tuesday doesn't necessarily matter after Sunday's show. So
true.
We'll see what happens because there's to lead into SmackDown because we're 4 minutes away. You've got the whole Brian and Bree Ms. Maurice thing happening,
and we have to see Bree on 2 fucking shows.
I know that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Bellas wrestled last night.
Yeah. And if they're really making Nikki versus Ronda the main event, they might as well not have the fucking show. Like,
might as well not.
Why bother?
Just cancel everything.
Why bother saying there's a women's revolution?
Let's bury someone like Ruby Riott. Wonderful.
Poor Wooby Wyatt. I always say it like the Iconics. Wooby Wyatt. Yeah, but there's good, at least on the positive side. SmackDown's pretty good. The feuds leading up to Hell in a Cell has been pretty good. Like, I really can't, as much as I knock on Raw, I can't really hate on SmackDown as much. What is happening? Anybody know what's happening exactly on SmackDown? I think Maurice is wrestling this week.
Hold on 1 second. If I can type.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm more interested in NXT than all the main roster stuff.
Well, I mean, what's his name? Patrick Clark, Velveteen, has been killing it. He went and wrestled in Dragon Gate.
Yeah, he wrestled at Evolve, right?
Or Evolve, rather. Yeah. He's the guy. Like, he's someone who, not right now, but in a little while, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be a top guy, for sure.
And once more, we got to commend Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks for what they accomplished with All In and
yeah.
for wrestling as a whole,
Yeah, it's letting people know there's life outside WWE if they so choose. And it's been
More
like that for a while.
Is always good.
Right, and it's kind of been like that for a while where if you really put your nose to the grindstone, you could make a full-time living wrestling on the indies, but you'd be working Thursday or probably Thursday through Sunday and working at least 4 shows a weekend, if not 2 on Sunday or 2 on Saturday to round it out to 5 or 6 shows.
But see, like those guys are the exception and not the rule when it comes to independent guys because they're making a killing money-wise.
Yeah, for sure. But they're almost like they're the American dream now. You know what I mean? Like in the sense that they are, if you want to aspire to be somebody, you don't have to be the Rock or Stone Cold. You can be the Young Bucks and have your own.
What's great about Cody too is that he saw that he felt he was stagnant on Raw and SmackDown, and he left on good terms, but he chose to do something else. And
he took a chance and
gambled on himself.
Look what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
He's made himself an even bigger name, and he's grown as a person and as a performer.
And honestly, most people when he left WWE, they're like, "Oh, he's going to be one of those guys who goes in on the indies after they leave WWE, and he's going to charge a lot of money and be like, hey,
yeah, they thought he'd be like Ryback."
Right, and he went a completely
In that
different
sense.
direction. Yeah, he went in a completely
Cody
different
rose
direction.
above his father would be so proud.
Absolutely.
And Brandy is fine.
Of course.
I was wondering when was that
waiting
coming in.
for that. All right.
Brandy's gorgeous.
Good God. She went. Did you guys see at All In when she came out with Flip and she was dressed in the army outfit? Holy fuck. We love you, Cody.
Damn.
So Ryan, break down what's happening on SmackDown, and we'll close it out.
Okay, what's happening on SmackDown? We got Brie Bella and Maurice
Oh boy.
in the main event.
Oh my God, where's that railroad spike?
We got the who's challenging for the New Day between Rusev Day and the Bar.
Oh yeah.
All
That's
right.
going to be the Bar probably, although I hope it's Rusev Day.
Yeah.
That would either match is going to be really good for the
Either team is still going to end up losing to New Day anyway.
Oh
though.
yeah, for sure.
They
for
should.
sure.
So that's why I almost kind of hope it is the Bar then, because I don't want to have Rusev Day win this big thing and then end up
Lose and then
losing.
break up or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte against Sonya Deville.
Oh,
Okay.
looks like they're doing a 9/11 memorial thing to open.
I'm
Oh,
sure.
well, that's nice.
That's classy. That's classy.
And Hardy versus Nakamura.
Oh, excellent.
We while we're on the subject, we should mention that it's September 11th today, and 17 years ago we as a country experienced this big tragedy, and the way WWE, especially during that time, like not long after, like that Raw, the next
SmackDown was on the 13th.
It was a SmackDown, yeah.
It was It was 2 days later.
And then and then later on in the month, when that emotional Kurt Angle, he beat Stone Cold for the title and the big American thing, and it was,
Yeah.
But just the way some of these guys, especially like you'd hear like Bradshaw talk about America and this and that. Oh man, very emotional.
How long didn't Angle only hold that belt for like a week?
Yeah, I feel like he didn't
Yeah,
have
that
very
was
long
during the
title
whole
reigns.
invasion thing. So then they had him and Rock and whoever.
No,
and,
I just was trying to.
Yeah, I don't think
remember
he
that.
held it for. I don't think he held it for very long at that point. But yeah, it was the first, as far as their history says, it was the first live sporting event or live entertainment event
Yeah.
to happen post 9/11, and they handled it the right way. They had matches and they wrestled and gave people what they wanted, but they also had the cut-ins. Right, they had They had everybody on the stage for Lillian to sing, and then they had the little video packages for everybody. They did it for a company that's usually not very subtle. They
knocked
did
it
a very
out
good
of the
job. Yeah, and I mean that was 17 years ago. So and available to rewatch, I'm sure, on the WWE Network if you want to go back and see Vince McMahon. Especially Vince McMahon gave a speech on that show. So
for all the negative stuff that WWE gets sometimes, they've done a lot of positive stuff too. And it's very commendable.
Bad. We might be in a little bit of a downswing right now, but honestly, the last couple of years have been real good. And back then, they really knew what they were doing. 2001-ish, 98 through 2001-ish, they were on fire. But we'll let you guys get to SmackDown. It is 8:03, so we're 3 minutes past. Yeah, check out that 9/11 Memorial Edition of SmackDown from September 13th, 2001. If you haven't seen it, it's very interesting. Kind of a time capsule of that period and what people were feeling in that period. So we should probably wrap up. This was the War Report, brought to you by TagMeDate.com, the first and only dating site exclusively for fans of pro wrestling. With our roster of over 70,000 superstars and divas, you too can find your tag team match at TagMeADate.com. It is free to register. You can send messages. It is a social media platform. You can share links and share articles, send messages, send emojis and GIFs. It is free. You don't have to pay any extra to send messages. You can. It's a chat function. It's not just like sending an email. It's an integrated chat function. it works on your mobile device or your desktop computer at tagmeadate.com. Very soon we will have Android and iOS apps to make that experience even better. But
I swear to God, they're coming. I swear they're coming.
Well,
They're coming.
I've tested it out. It exists, so I know it's on its way. So tag me date. Yeah, it's tag me.
True.
Yeah, right. We gotta get. We should do like. Well, we'll tell you. I'll talk to you after off air about how we'll do it. But I feel like we need to have somebody make an like one of like a wrestler or a legend make our announcement that the apps are launched. We need a video from somebody saying it's here.
I would kill for Edge and Christian.
Wow. Yeah, that would be. I mean,
talk about raising the bar, right?
Yeah. Well, talk about raising money to pay Edge and Christian to do that. But yeah, we'll have an announcement.
We'd settle for the Brooklyn Brawler, honestly. So.
Well, the Brooklyn Brawler would do it.
I got a funny idea. We'll discuss off here.
Excellent. But yeah, you should check out tagmeadate.com and also follow Tag Me a Date on social media at Tag Me a Date. We usually do a mailbag segment, but Kat was not here to open the mailbag. The cat's out of the bag did not happen tonight. Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
That's what Eric calls it.
That's what we call it. Cat's not on.
Yeah. So she wasn't here, but you can send your questions to askthewarreport@gmail.com. And if your question gets read on air, you're entered into a contest to win one free entry to a WrestleRumble.com pay-per-view pick'em. This month's is Hell in a Cell. If you submitted a question, you will be considered for the drawing. Even though we didn't get to them today, if you got it in, obviously you're entered because you sent it in.
And we will address it next week.
Right. Any questions that we don't get to when Kat isn't here, we address the next week. So
we'll talk all about how Hell in a Cell went and everything.
That's right. So follow at Tag Me a Date on social media, Twitter and Instagram, and especially go to our YouTube page. You go to youtube.com, type in Tag Me a Date, all one word, Tag Me a Date, no spaces. That will get you to the Tag Me a Date YouTube channel where you can subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications for when we go live or upload a new video. It's the best way to keep track of the new stuff we upload. And, of course, tune in Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. on Eastern Time. When do we do the whole daylight savings thing?
Oh, that's soon, isn't it?
Couple weeks, October 5th, something like that. It's coming up. But we'll let you know. It really only affects international listeners because it means that we change by an hour.
November 4th.
November 4th. Okay, good. So we got time. We got plenty of time. But I want to get it out there so people remember. But 7 p.m. on Eastern Time and at our YouTube is Tag Me a Date on YouTube. No spaces. Tag Me a Date. No spaces. So we'll be back next Tuesday, 7 p.m. on the Eastern Dial for another edition of the War Report. And again, that's brought to you by tagmeadate.com. So go register. It's absolutely free. Find your tag team match. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next week.